The Brahmani style of yoga is about cultivating an embodied practice, a somatic practice, moving away from the shapes and moving into a felt sense, a sensory experience. The world of yoga is evolving, and it will continue to evolve. And we've learned so much about human movement, and we've learned so much about the nervous system and the movement of energy in the body, and all of these things are really important. And right now we just need to ask the questions: is what we inherited as a modern yoga practice, is that really useful for the average practitioner right now? And I'm never talking about, throw out all of the old traditions and the classical terms in yoga or the classical practices in yoga. There is so much that's important about yoga, but we need to question. We need to keep questioning, because up until now we didn't ask questions. We just thought, oh, this is stuff that's been done for 5,000 years, so it must be good. And we know now, when we're talking about the asana practice, it isn't 5,000 years old. There haven't been people practicing this same exact set of asanas the way we've been given them for any length of time, and certainly not as women, and certainly not as Westerners. So we have the permission to question. You have the permission to question anything. Our journey is very different than the journey that was written for people 200 or 300 years ago. And we need to understand it's the journey that's important, and not following all of the rules the same way for each individual. What can we interpret into our bodies without losing the essence of yoga through the tantric and hatha lineages? It's a practice of curiosity. It's a practice of asking myself, what am I experiencing? What is my reaction? What is my response? Where do I feel I've got more expansion? And where do I feel I need more stability? And this is mentally, this is emotionally, and this is represented in the physical. My main focus for the level 2 teacher training is to give you the skills so that you can then bring in these new movement principles, which will relate to how we experience things in our body, because we're going from a shape-based practice to a felt-based practice. It's something that we feel. We're focusing on how we experience movement, experience stillness, how we experience the breath and energy. So looking at the deeper layers without the need to fine-tune the shape. So I focus on giving you the skills to be able to make that transition, because for many of you that's where you are. You're in the middle of thinking, things have to change with the way I teach, and I'm not sure how to implement it. We started off with a very cue-based language for teaching shapes. Where should your feet be? Where should your knees be? Where should everything be? And we're moving away from that as a practice. That as a practice might have some useful elements in order for people to understand structure, but even so, I can't teach you how to feel if I keep teaching you how it should look, or what a result should appear to be, what you're headed towards. And so the language is gone, because the words needed to direct somebody to experience something in their body is very, very different than the language needed to direct somebody to make a shape. So we work on that a lot. I teach in English, and I know I have people from all over the world, so we do focus on the fact that we're working with English. However, I know a lot of you teach in your own languages, so we spend time practicing your own language, your translation into your own language, finding your own words, because once again, that's what's going to be authentic for you, is finding your own words that resonate with your students, that make sense. And we spend the time and the energy to keep working through that so that you have a lot more confidence in presenting this new way of moving in your own classes back home. The science behind new movement principles, the science behind what we're learning with the nervous system, cellular biology, the world of meditation is going into quantum physics. They're completely marrying up together. And so we present, myself and the team, Emil Wendell and Dr. Reese Benyon, we spend a lot of time giving you that information. And sometimes on the course it's going to feel a bit overwhelming because it is a lot of information, but we want it to be there as almost like a bit of buzz in the background. Because what happens initially is when we're changing the way we teach and we're moving away from the old school mentality of the practice into a more felt practice and a somatic practice, an embodied practice, we do need to have the science behind it. We can't just present this new practice as in terms of everybody just doing what feels good, because that's not what it's about. If we only do what feels really good, we'll just spend a bit of time, 5 minutes rolling around on the floor. And there's a lot more science to what's going on in the body. And when we need to present challenges, when we're talking to the nervous system, how we work with the breath, what's going on with the energy, all of that is of really useful knowledge. So we bring that information into the classroom every day so that you're always getting backup information, so that when you start to introduce these principles in your own classes, you've got solid backing. When somebody says, "Why are we doing this?" you need to know why you're doing it. For me, it's really about inspiring people. I can't offer what I do without recognizing so much about being a good teacher, a great teacher, is empowering students, empowering other teachers, empowering your peers, empowering people around you, whether they do yoga or not. We lead by example, and for me that's so much of the process. When I show up in India every year for the level 2 teacher training, or when I'm teaching the modular versions around Europe, for me it's about making a connection to each individual on the course. I really want to get to know you because I want to guide you to find the best way to empower yourself, to know that you have the capacity to be amazing and to show up for your students in a way that we all get inspired, that it's a trickle-down effect. If I'm inspiring you as a teacher and you're inspiring your students as a teacher, and those students are walking out of there and perhaps going home to their family and friends and radiating more of that inspiration, then we uplift everybody as a whole. We become a community of empowering beings. That sounds a bit hippie. But really, honestly, you know, that's what it's about for me. It's how can I contribute and help people raise their own awareness to find their own spark. And honestly, that's what I really hope everybody gets when they walk away from the level 2 teacher trainings with Brahmani, is a deeper connection to yourself, a deeper connection to others, in the most positive way we can find. We continue to do the month-long course in Goa over every December at the beautiful Satsanga retreat. And a lot of you learn much better when you're away completely from your own environment. Perhaps you're away from your regular classes, from family distractions, from other work distractions, and you have this focused, intense period of learning, experiencing community with another group that really bonds every single year. And it's a wonderful option, especially for those of you that you make most of your living teaching yoga, and so we all know what happens in December almost everywhere in the world. Classes really drop because that's when people start to go on holiday or they start to get other functions, and their students just don't show up after usually the second week of December. That's been my experience when I've been teaching in Europe especially. And so it gives everybody a good opportunity as teachers to just basically say, okay, I'm not teaching the first 2 weeks of December. You've got the whole month off. I'll see you in January, when everybody floods back into the classroom, usually by the second week of January. So the intensive version, it works really, really well for a lot of people that like to just be away from the external distractions and focus on themselves, on the practices, and on all the information that you're absorbing. We give a lot of pre-homework to do in preparation to coming to Goa, so that you don't arrive and start from scratch. You've already got an idea of where we're headed. The other program that we're doing is a modular program, and it's 10-day modules, 3 of them over a whole year. So that's 10 days at a time. That's very intensive. But then you have 4 to 6 months in between each module to start processing that information, to let it seep in, to introduce things into your class, experiment with things, and then come back for the next module. And we download all that stuff. We start to talk about what worked, what didn't work, how can we develop it a little bit further, where are the holes and what needs more help. And so a lot of people really like working in this way. For those of you that feel like you can't take a whole month off and travel somewhere and do it, or you just like learning better in smaller chunks, something that's a little bit more manageable, there's just 2 really useful options, and it always depends on what works best for you, how you learn best, how you focus best.